Hello, beautiful people. Today we're going to be diving into the four essential steps to change a habit or just to learn something new, right? Whether you're trying to kick a bad habit or pick up a new skill, these steps will guide you through the process. And don't worry, we've all had our first day, right? So let's talk about using an analogy, driving a first car, because it sounds, I'm pretty sure everybody's driven a car at this point, and we want to break that down step by step using these four steps that will change your life when it comes to changing a habit, right? So the first step we want to talk about is unconscious incompetence, right? And what this means is that this is when you don't know what you don't know. It's like when you first thought about learning to drive a car at this first stage, you were unaware how much you don't know about driving, right? Things like the rules of the road, how to operate a vehicle, or even how to stay calm when you're behind the wheel, right? So, the perfect example of this is just thinking about the first time you saw someone actually drive. And it probably seemed effortless at the thought of it. How hard could this be? Little did you know that it's a lot more to it. And at this stage, the key is awareness. You're realizing that there is a gap in your knowledge or behavior in the first step towards change, right? So that's really what it is. It's just the awareness. You're aware of the situation. Now, number two would be where you're conscious incompetent. Okay. And what that means is this is where you start learning. You're actually now taking those first steps and you're realizing just how much you don't know. It's the moment when you get behind the wheel for the first time and suddenly it's not so easy. You're aware of your mistakes, but you're still learning how to correct them. And that can be very nerving, right? And a lot of people right now are just in that stage. You're just consciously incompetent right now, okay? And so, again, when you think back to driving, this is definitely where you're nervous. You're building a lot of anxiety. You might got sweaty palms. You maybe having full on panic attacks for some people, right? Because you are struggling just to keep the car straight, remembering to check your mirrors, even just which pedal am I on, and everything is just very nerving. And this requires a lot of focus. And this stage is very frustrating, right? But it is crucial. And this is also where the real learning begins. So it's important to not get discouraged because everyone goes through this phase, right? One thing I wanted to share with you guys, right, was that um, this was one of my life changing moments for me because I used to beat myself up for not changing fast enough. For some reason, I just thought that change occurred overnight, and when it didn't, I felt like I was failing. And I don't know if some of you guys can relate to that, but once I understood these four stages that I'm going over today, and understanding that I was just basically in stage two, I stopped getting disappointed and I changed. Um, I had changed things and I didn't get upset because it hadn't happened yet. And instead, what would happen then was I'd started to focus on where I was in the process and allow myself to grow at my own pace. And that's that famous saying of like, we're not in a sprint, it's just a marathon, slow and steady. You don't necessarily have to be patient per se, because I mean, there can be some urgency, but you have to go through these steps accordingly. And this follows in line with, also mastering the basics. If you guys haven't watched that video, I highly recommend it. I'll leave it up here in the description so you guys can see that later. Um, so let's get back to the steps, right? So the next step is conscious competence. Again, conscious competence. And so at this stage, this is where you're starting to get the hang of it, but you still need to concentrate. You haven't mastered it yet. And when you're driving, you're just more comfortable behind the wheel, but you're still thinking about what you're doing. You've got the basics down, but it's not second nature yet, right? This is not when you're going to be like talking on the phone or anything like that. And after a few less lessons, you'll be able to drive more smoothly, but you still have to remind yourself to signal before turning or checking your blind spots. You're just more competent, but it requires effort. So, and this stage again is very key, right? Because you're still requiring more practice, practice, repetition, repetition, right? But of course, the more confident you become and the closer you get to mastering the skill, the closer you're changing the habit, right? And then eventually we are going to get to the stage that we want to get to, when you know that you've mastered and you've changed, and you're actually starting to see the results that you want, and that is unconscious competence, right? And what that means is that this is when you have now developed a new skill. The habit has just become second nature. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's just automatic. So when you're driving behind the wheel, you're not overthinking every move. You're basically just on autopilot. Like, it could be late at night and you just get home. You don't even know how you got there because you just know exactly what to do, right? You're got one hand on the steering wheel, your seat's laid back, and you're just there. Everything is just reflex, and it's just, like I said, second nature, right? So, this is also where people can have conversations when they're driving. Sometimes, talking on the phone, again, using the hands free if you're in a certain state. I don't recommend texting. That's not what we're talking about. But even just listening to music, anything that used to be a distraction where you had to concentrate, you don't have to do anymore, right? And you just feel more comfortable, and it just feels like second nature. So, and this is really the stage and the goal where the habit or the skill has just become a natural part of your life. But remember, it's even at this stage, it's important to stay mindful to avoid slipping back into old habits. Okay. Now, I do want to bring up, because I know, this is about relationships for a lot of people. So, one of the things that we want to talk about here is how this applies in relationships, right? So, understanding these stages is so important, especially in relationships, because you've probably heard someone say, I'm going to change, I promise, but this is the reality. Actions speak louder than words. I tell people this all the time. And there is a difference between temporary change versus real change. And when a partner says they're going to change, it's easy to take them based on their words, but without putting in actual work through these four key steps that I just went over, their change is likely to just be temporary, right? And they might make an effort at first, but if they haven't truly progressed through these stages, old habits will resurface. So, let me give you guys an example, right? We'll just keep it real simple. So imagine your partner's promising you to be more considerate. And at first, they might try really hard, but if they haven't worked through these stages, it won't stick. They'll sit back and they'll slip back into their old ways because they haven't built that unconscious competence yet, right? And this is where it does take change. So understanding this can save you a lot of headache. So you're just not listening to what someone says, you're watching what they do. And real change takes time and true effort, and it really has to come from them too, which is also very important, because if they're just saying they're changing for you already know you're in for temporary change, right? They got to want to do it for them. And they have to be willing to follow this process. And if they're not putting in the work, the change just won't last. Okay. So, getting back to, these four steps, just remember, wherever you are, we've all had our first day, right? Even if you're just learning to drive today and this is a video that you're watching because it's your first day driving, understand that we've all been there. We know what it's like. Knowing these four stages is going to make a huge difference in your life. Okay. And, it's just easy to forget how far we've come once we reach unconscious competence. So being kind and gentle for people that are learning things and learning new skills for the first time, it's okay. We want to make sure that we know all four stages and we're looking at those stages accordingly, so there isn't those opportunities to beat ourselves up, and we can love ourselves and love our partners and everybody who we're teaching this to, right? And it's a patience game. So, all right, you guys, thank you guys so much for watching these videos. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Um, I love doing these videos for you guys. Comment below. Let me know if there's anything else that you guys would like me to cover in the future. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. When it does ask, make sure you hit all, because I do post content daily. And then you guys can also follow my social media links, which are in the description, because I do post stuff there also regularly. And until next time, you guys, make it a great day. You take care.